Welcome to Knightline, the morning after, on ESPN 580 Orlando, WDBO. Night Nation's only call-in show goes live now.
Alrighty, good morning, Night Nation. This is Andrew Phegley, and this is Knightline the morning after. We are live from the 1148 studios, and Casey is in the ESPN 580 Orlando studios, and also Roger Bengal is on the phone. Ben Stout is here with me. First of all, happy Father's Day to everyone involved, Night Nation or Ben or Roger, Casey. I don't know if you have kids or not, but happy Father's Day to all of the fathers out there. Obviously, you know, sports and kids and stuff are a big deal, especially when you have boys, sometimes girls. I'm not going to leave them out. Obviously, that is too, but, you know, we concentrate a lot on football. So I think football and fathers and kids kind of go together personally. So, all right. Well, we're brought to you by Chad Barlaw, raising the bar on what to expect from your personal injury attorney. Give Chad a call at 407-599-9036 for a free consultation, or visit chadbarlaw.com. We're taking your calls. You can call us at 844-225-5580 on the Dever Team line, or you can reach me, AP_Knightline on Twitter. And you can find all of the Knightline Sports Network content on nightlinesports.com. All right, Ben. Roger, are you there, by the way?
I am. Enjoying this beautiful sunny day and glad to be with both of you.
All right, Roger is coming from our northern Florida studio. Are you sitting on the beach?
I am not, but I will be in probably 40 or an hour and 15 minutes or so.
Okay, well, we'll go with that. That's what you should do for Father's Day and all that stuff. I want to start out by saying, obviously, we're dealing with a little uptick in the COVID thing. And so that's the thing that is on my mind the most as far as sports go. Mm-hmm. I understand why the COVID thing is spiking, so we're not going to really get into that. But I do want to get into the football side of it and what it means for our college football season, which I'm honestly, my mind has changed a little bit. Yeah. I'm getting a little worried. I'm not sure we're going to have a college football season at this point.
Well, we talked about it a little bit last week, with the three players, UCF players testing positive, and then you had the kind of debacle that happened at Houston. The reason why that was a debacle is because they didn't test the way and follow protocols the way UCF had established. But you are seeing, as you said, Andrew, you're seeing multiple universities around the country where their football players, their student athletes are coming into campus and they are testing positive at a pretty high level. I think Clemson had 23 football players recently test positive. So these numbers are going up within these football administrations, these football programs, and that is concerning. I mean, certainly going into these preseason workouts and then hopefully going into the season, I mean, anybody would be very naive to think that we weren't going to have this. We weren't going to have positive tests. But I think now that it's really front and center and some things are stopping because of it, it is a cause of concern. And hopefully we're able to set an even better plan into place that when this happens or if this happens during the season, we can extend it. Yeah,
I'm looking at an article from Friday on ESPN.com, and it's saying 20 of 28 positive coronavirus tests conducted on Clemson student athletes and staff since their return to campus 2 weeks ago, 23 belong to football players, a source said Friday. Wow. So the school announced its total number of 315 tests and 28 positives. So that's, if you look at I'm a numbers guy. If you look at that, that's not a great percentage of what they're doing there.
I mean, and you know how it is too, being in a football locker room. And I know that there's protocols where they're not as together as you normally would be, but I mean, it's just inevitable. I mean, it's a very close quarter situation. Being on a athletics team at a college level, you're in a locker room, you're in a small space. I mean, these things are concerning. That's true.
Roger, you got something to say about this?
Yeah, I mean, it's not just them. Texas also has had an increase again. They had 23 as well. So Ole Miss has had the numbers go up. In both of those cases, though, it was situations where student athletes and specifically football players were attending events together outside of football activities. So these, in one case, it was a fraternity event. So when you look at it from that perspective, it's not just the risk is not just when you're in the locker room, but it's also these student athletes have to be responsible when they're outside of that and doing their own thing. The question is going to be how much control do the coaches have? And if you've got these large numbers of student athletes out, that's obviously going to be problematic. And then, you've got the whole situation of what the presidents are going to do. One of the things that happened this week was UCF's new president, Cartwright, came out and announced that we were going to have virtual classes for the fall. And this goes back to what we were talking about with conferences like the Pac-12 and no unified front or decision-making from the NCAA, because the Pac-12's already said if students are not on campus, we're not going to play. So at what point does the variability become too much to overcome? Is our football season going to be one conference or two conferences playing all year? I mean, there's a lot of questions there. But the big thing that I'm seeing too is student athletes have to make sure that they have a heightened awareness around this stuff, because their own decisions can make them more susceptible to this thing and affect the team.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, K-State Kansas State says that it's suspended football workouts for 14 days because 14 players tested positive. So this is not, it's not just an East Coast thing. This is in the middle of Kansas where COVID-19 really wasn't that huge in that area. So this is scary for college sports because of budgets. I mean, this is a really big deal. We talked before, and we played the interview with Danny White on here that happened on Scott Inez's show, and he says that it's a $30 million problem, and that's, the budget being $70 million or so. That's a lot of money. Yeah. This is a big problem for college athletics in general. I mean, if there's no college athletics on TV, there's no revenue even from that, I guess. I don't know how that works. We may have to get a hold of somebody and figure that out, but I don't think that the networks are going to be paying schools to just sit there and do nothing. Yeah,
that's got to be written in their contract somewhere, where if you're not actually playing the sport on TV, then you're not going to get any of that TV revenue. Yeah. And that's actually what happened during the NCAA tournament, right? In the College World Series being canceled, the Division I NCAA schools took a huge budget hit because of that, because that's all that revenue is lost, not only from the ticket sales, but from the TV contracts, which is the biggest part of that.
I'm afraid that this could last much longer than just this season.
Right.
As far as like the problems from not having that budget, I mean, it could be long lasting in sports in general.
Well, we have seen that in the past. We've seen that in the past where certain schools like UAB, for instance, that ran into a budgetary issue and had to cancel their football program. It takes years to recover from that. Even if you take a 1-year break, it takes years to recover that from a budget standpoint, and a revenue standpoint, I should say. And so you're right. This could have long-lasting effects, just having 1 year off of college athletics.
Roger, you had something there?
Yeah, I mean, the other part about this is long-term, and we're talking about our home state, the state of Florida, right? Today, we're on stage 2 or what have you. So we're at 50% capacity. So There was a bright spot this week in the Florida minor leagues, had come up with a plan saying that they would play, and they had approval for 50% capacity. The question is, back to your point with Danny White and the $30 million problem, if we can only go at 50% capacity, he was wanting to push to spring anyway. So the question for me is, okay, if this continues to ramp up, it doesn't level off, et cetera, in the general population, the governor could get involved and, again, either reduce that 50% capacity instead of raising it, which is what we were all hoping for. At the very most optimistic side, keep it at 50% capacity, or just reduce it back to, level 1 or stage 1 that we were in to begin with. So my big question from the dollars and cents standpoint is, the governments are going to get involved as well. It's not just internally what the NCAA is doing, but the local governments. And that was the whole crux of this thing to begin with.
Yeah, no, I understand that. Absolutely. Yeah. This whole thing, it just worries me, and I feel like that this is really, really going to have an effect. I was not worried before this last week, to be honest with you.
I think all of our listeners understand we weren't worried as we are now in previous weeks listening to us. You're right.
Yeah. So, it's changed my outlook on it, which is a bummer. I'm really upset about it. I was looking forward to getting this going. I think we need to take a break here, and we'll be right back on Knightline the morning after. We'll continue this. You can call us 844-225-5580 if you have something to say about this. I know a lot of you do. 844-225-5580.
ESPN Radio Classic. It was October 6th, 2010. Game 1 of the National League Division Series between the Phillies and Reds. A historic night for Roy Halladay.
In Philadelphia, he paints an absolute masterpiece.
Tremendous. Absolutely unreal.
Beginning at 8 on ESPN 580 and FM 96.5 HD2.
We are America Strong, and at Napleton Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram, we are driving America forward because reverse is not an option. Our showrooms are open, and now at Napleton, we have no payments for up to 6 months and 0% interest for up to 72 months on most models. And for the first time ever, employee pricing on Jeep Wranglers and Gladiators. So let's drive America forward. Napleton Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram. Reverse is not an option. Online at NapletonCJD.com. See NapletonCJD.com for full program details.
If scuba diving is on your bucket list, now is the time to register for open water lessons with Seminole Scuba, because there's no stinking virus underwater. Seminole Scuba is being socially responsible with smaller classes and thoroughly disinfecting all the equipment. Seminole Scuba is a PADI 5-star instructor center and offers scuba lessons and the industry's top brands for those that already love the sport: Aqualung, Atomic, Sunto Dive Computers, and underwater cameras. Sign up today and dive in now. SeminoleScuba.com.
Because driving home in Orlando traffic stinks. ESPN Afternoons with Scott Inez is there.
So over the last month, I've been trying to get rid of as much stuff as possible. But yesterday I was forced to deal with throwing away my grill.
Oh,
you don't mess with a man and his grill. I've had this grill for most of the 20 years we've been in the house.
Why'd you throw it out? You take it to the new house.
Dude, it's rusting and it's greasy and I've cleaned it as much as I possibly can and it's rusty on it.
That's what happens with a grill. Like all of the character, all of the whole thing. Like a grill needs to be cleaned. I'm not saying that, but really it's aged more than anything.
It adds flavor, man.
You know why that bratwurst tastes so good?
Yes.
Because it's standing on the shoulders of the 40 other bratwursts that I've cooked on.
ESPN Afternoons with Scott and Ed. Weekdays 4 to 6 on ESPN 580 and FM 96.5 HD2.
To some, the sound of a baby babbling doesn't mean much, but that's not true. They're testing out vowels and consonants and trying different sounds. And by 12 months, their babbling is beginning to take on meaning, especially if there's no babbling at all. Little to no babbling by 12 months or later is just one of the possible signs of autism in children. Learn more at autismspeaks.org. Brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
I'm Jeff Allen. Join me each and every week on the Knightline Sports Network for the AAC Report. We bring you in-depth coverage of each school in football, basketball, baseball, softball, soccer, golf, tennis, and more, as well as bring you insider interviews and focus in on the biggest games and news of the week. That's all right here each week on the AAC Report, only on the Knightline Sports Network.
And now, back to Knightline, the morning after, on ESPN 580 Orlando, WDBO. Call now at 844-225-5580 or text at 21232.
All right, back on Knightline, the morning after. I'm Andrew Phegley, joined here by Ben Stout and Roger Bengal on the phone. Casey's in the ESPN studio. We are in the 1148 studios, and we're brought to you by Chad Bar Law, raising the bar on what to expect from your personal injury attorney. Give Chad a call at 407-599-9036 for a free consultation, or visit chadbarlaw.com. You can call us to talk with us about what we're talking about right now, COVID-19 and football season. We're a little worried. 844-225-5580 on the Dever team line, or you can reach me, AP_Knightline on Twitter. So we're back, and we're going to talk about this stuff. We're just going to continue the talk. I think Ben has something here that he wants to say going into what we've already been talking about in the football and COVID stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just wanted to touch on something that you said earlier, Andrew, talking about K-State, and they've suspended their football activities for 14 days, right? So obviously 2 more weeks going in. It's going to be going into July where they're suspending their football activities, and then hopefully they're able to return and return in full force, if you will. But what's going to happen if something else, another group of positive tests, and they have to suspend again? All of a sudden, we're getting up against a race against the clock here on actually starting the college football season on time. Because what I've learned this week, and many of our listeners may already know this, but it is mandatory in the NCAA bylaws that there's a 29-day period prior to the first game being played at which practice needs to start. You have the ability to have 25 practices during that 29-day period, and we can talk about the restart schedule in a second here. But if essentially that puts the date of August 6th or August 7th as a really important one where preseason practices have to start. And so it becomes July is just an extremely important month for us to get these protocols together to be able to kind of get these student athletes in the right health mind frame and hopefully be able to have a season after that.
Yeah, Roger, you got anything?
Just kind of build off of what Ben was saying. The NCAA did bring out their 6-week plan and approved it. And going back to what he's saying, in order for us to start on time, summer activities have to start by the 13th. So that means official summer activities. Today we're in a situation where people can do their own thing. Student athletes can come back and do their own workouts, but it's not supervised activities. So those summer activities start on the 13th, and that is defined as 8 hours in the weight room and 2 hours of film per week. And then after that, they have scheduled meetings and walkthroughs starting on the 24th, which means 8 hours in the weight room, 6 hours of walkthroughs, 6 hours for meetings, and then the aforementioned practice starts August 7th. That's assuming we start today. So really that time clock that Ben's talking about, if they're talking about 2 weeks and we have to start this by July 14th, we're already under the gun as it stands right now with some of these programs if they're taking 2-week hiatuses. And those that have not given a timeline and have just said, hey, we're gonna suspend football operations for now, they're under the gun to make a decision as well if those TV contracts are going to be met on time, et cetera. If anything, I think this is going to force everybody to kind of and hopefully come up with a decision and say, hey, look, this is our demarcation zone. Because if not, you're going to have sporadic games, even within conferences. Some of these conferences that have said, hey, yes, we're going to play. If they've got suspensions and active suspensions, that's going to be chaos as far as scheduling is concerned. during the conference portion of everybody's schedule. So it's going to be real interesting, and there is a hard deadline on this stuff that we really have to think about if we're going to play on time. If they push it back, is that a continuous moving target? And how many of the teams are going to be able to play at that time to make it make sense for us to have a season? So there's a lot of open questions, and there's definitely some hard deadlines. And I think collectively, college football, if too many of these teams can't play, all of them are going to have to come together and say, hey, we need to reevaluate this plan, because I just don't see a season happening with one conference playing and nobody else playing.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, we've got that schedule that you walk through right there is absolutely correct, and the NCAA announced that assuming games would start on September 5th. So since UCF's first game is actually a day before that, since it's on Friday instead of the Saturday, that's just moving up one day. What's interesting about that second 2 week, or after the first 11-day segment that you mentioned from July 12th through the 22nd, what starts that 2-week period after that, July 23rd through August 5th. What's interesting about that segment that is new this year that we didn't have in previous seasons is those walkthroughs, the walkthrough practices that they're allowed during that 2-week period. I believe that they were allowed before to go over plays and all that, but previous seasons, they actually weren't allowed to have those sessions with a football. And so this year, for the first time ever, because we didn't have spring practice, or most spring practices got cut short after a few of them, like UCF did. So for the first time ever, they're actually able to have wide receivers run routes and catch passes from quarterbacks. Again, this is assuming that we're actually doing that. But that is interesting about that second period of this kind of 6-week restart, that 2-week period between July 23rd to August 5th, where there are some walkthroughs that actually involve a football for the first time this year.
Well, I mean, that's a good thing as far as, like, being able to practice like that and the changes that were made, in there. But, I've been looking here at different stuff while you guys were talking, which is good. Thank you very much for doing that. Yeah. I'm just trying to find out a little bit more about this, but I mean, we already mentioned Houston, Texas, and Clemson and all that stuff. I just don't see this moving forward. I really don't. I mean, if all these teams take their 14 days or whatever, and then nobody else tests positive after that, yes, that gives a little bit more time. But then again, what if people the next time they start testing test positive? And then this was the initial group of players coming back as well. This wasn't the entire group of players.
Right, it was the first 60 or whatever, yeah.
Those guys come in next, and they test positive. I'm sure some of them will. That makes everything very, very short. So
it puts these universities on the clock in the decision-making process as well. And both you and Roger were alluding to this earlier. It's that it puts them on the clock to actually make some really tough decisions within their protocols, in the sense that, just as we're talking about, we know that there's going to be positive tests. It's already happened. It's going to continue to happen. But what's the threshold, right? We had 3 UCF players test positive, and they quarantined those players. And as far as we know, it's business as usual during those preseason workouts that are happening right now. Other schools with 14, 23, a lot more players, they're shutting down things. So they've got to understand what that threshold is, where it becomes a really big concern where they have to shut everything down. And I think they should announce that now before it starts happening, where they're saying, okay, so our limit is 20 players or whatever it may be, because you don't want too many, but you certainly don't want to overreact to 3 to 5 to maybe even 10. Who knows?
Yeah, I don't know if anybody has mentioned this yet, but the UCLA players I don't know if we talked about this, demanded third-party oversight over their testing. because they didn't think it was on the up and up for some reason. So in a document obtained by ESPN, first reported by the Los Angeles Times, 30 current players and one former player had signed a letter asking that third-party health officials be put in charge of overseeing and enforcing health and safety guidelines. That may deal with something else besides the COVID thing, but that has everything to do with the COVID thing. So
that's the empowerment of student athletes. Then that's them taking charge of their own health and being empowered to demand something like that, because they're saying, hey, we don't necessarily have any financial incentive to start the season. The administration and the coaches all do. So we want to make sure that a third party, takes our health into it the best they can. And it might be a little bit, too much on their part. But by the same token, I don't blame them for making sure and whatever that makes them feel comfortable, because at the end of the day, they're the ones getting on the field.
Yeah, and then the players are also asking for whistleblower protections in that and not being named and all that stuff. So that's pretty interesting to me. Roger, you got anything?
Well, I mean, I think that's more of an indictment of Chip Kelly and the administration, to be frank. You don't see this with a lot of different coaches. It's interesting. Recently, you've seen this surge. Obviously, part of it's COVID, part of other things, where student athletes are quote unquote empowering themselves, but you're seeing a lot more pushback against coaches. I mean, if I have my players telling me, and I'm the administration telling me, I don't trust Chip Kelly to have their best interests in heart, I mean, that's not a good look for Chip Kelly. That program already has been underperforming per se. They've gotten a little bit better recently, but it's been underperforming. But this was the first one that has done this. How many others are going to do this? I mean, there was a lot of controversy when Ohio State came out, and they said, hey, we're going to have all of our players sign waivers. Okay, well, if they sign waivers, they're still not forced to play. So if they're not comfortable with what the administration is doing, they're not comfortable with what the coaching staff is doing, then they do have the ability to pull back. And again, that's another variable when we're looking at the calculus of whether we're going to play or not.
Yeah. Well, and you brought up a thing there that kind of worries me as well. You said forced to play. Nobody should be forced to play. These are not. This is not a situation where anybody should even feel like they're forced to play. And yes, there is a lot of money involved, and that's what we've talked about it. But there's also player health and player safety and everybody else's safety. Most importantly, player safety, though. And that's just a huge thing. So I have been completely on the other side of this whole football season going. I still want it to go if it can possibly go. But the biggest thing is player safety. I mean, there's nothing bigger than that. So if this is what needs to be done, everybody's going to have to figure out, what's going to happen. The NCAA is going to have to do something to figure out, what the plan is going forward and how to figure this all out. I mean, they don't do a lot.
No, they don't.
They when certain situations they like to make a bunch of rules, but then when there's an issue and a problem, they are absent a lot. So the NCAA needs to come up with something. They are the guidance line, organization. That's what they do. Mm-hmm. So they need to do something here. They need to figure this out. I mean, I hate even the thought of not having college football. I hate it. I mean, it makes my life extremely difficult trying to do a sports show.
Yeah.
But just the camaraderie that we have of going out there and tailgating and going to the games and the emotion that we feel during football season, we're not going to have that.
Yeah, and
we're just going to be mad. We're going to be upset that there's no football.
Yeah, and I will say though, I'm definitely on the side that you and I have discussed whether or not. Do you want a football season to start on time without fans, or do you want to start in the spring with fans? And I am definitely on the second side of that as far as starting in the spring if it means that fans get to go. I mean, going to the games not only is just great from a personal and fan perspective, and as we talked about earlier with it being Father's Day. I mean, part of our family tradition in the fall is
you're out there with your kids
I'm out
every
there
time.
with my kids every Saturday, and I consciously think about that as a father. I consciously think about that family tradition that we're establishing, that these kids and myself are going to remember the rest of our lives. Every Saturday during the fall or every weekend during the fall, we're going to the UCF football games, and so. That whole experience, I certainly don't want to be robbed of that just from a selfish perspective. And I'd love to, if it means we have to delay the season, then I am all for that. And that's from a fan perspective, of course. But understanding the budgetary perspective that Danny White has talked about numerous times, where we rely so heavily on that revenue that comes from that fan support and the game day revenue, I would rather the university, from a budget perspective, be able to play in the fall.
Yeah. Well,
excuse me, spring.
Yeah, the spring. Oh man, and then that messes up the entire schedule as far as bowl games and
other sports
and other. Yeah, I mean, it messes everything up. All right, so. Oh, boy. We're going to continue talking about this. I would love it if somebody would call and talk to us about this as well. 844-225-5580 on the Dever team line. 844-225-5580. We're live. You can call in and you can talk to us. We're going to take a little bit of a break here, and we will be right back on Knightline the morning after, continuing this conversation about what's upcoming in the college football season.
This is ESPN 580 Orlando, broadcasting live from the Anajar and Levine studios. Anajar and Levine accident attorneys. Call 1-800-747-FREE. That's 1-800-747-3733.
The summer sell-off is happening now at Greenway Dodge and Greenway Ford. 4 ways to save. 1, 0 down. 2, 0% financing. 3, 0 payments until 2021. 4, up to 35% off. Act now. Inventory won't last. We're number 1 for a reason. Greenway Dodge and Greenway Ford. Shop online and pick it up or deliver to you. Corner of East Colonial and 417. Or buy now at GreenwayDodge.com and GreenwayFord.com. Greenway, the only way. Offers cannot be combined. See details online.
Get active and get scuba diving. Seminole Scuba is a PADI 5-star instructor center and offers scuba lessons and the industry's top brands for those who already love the sport. Sign up for lessons today. Dive in at SeminoleScuba.com. Financing available through Synchrony Financial.
Night Nation, this is Adam, one half of the dynamic duo that is the Sons of UCF, which is found only on the Knightline Sports Network. Join UCF Mike and I each week as we bring you some of the latest from in and around UCF sports, including such great segments as the Josh Heupel Translator, Top 8 Lists, and Cow of the Week. We'll also bring you some of the most in-depth and unique interviews with some of your favorite former Knights. You don't want to miss a moment, so make sure you subscribe to the Knightline Sports Network wherever you get your podcasts, and we'll take care of the rest. Go Knights. Charge on.
Hey, this is Travis Dever, Kai's Real Estate, the Dever team, New Smyrna Beach. Your source for real estate and everything else in New Smyrna Beach. Proud sponsor of Knightline and Knightline Postgame Live. Call me anytime at 386-690-1636. That's 386-690-1636. Let me show you my hometown, New Smyrna Beach, UCF's favorite beach. Go Knights and charge on.
Golic and Wingo.
The point serves, and what Steven Jackson mentioned, you have got a monopoly on airtime right now when it comes to these issues. I mean, everyone's been talking about it. It's not an issue that anyone's been able to shy away from or avoid or put to bed because it is sitting there as the only thing on the perch right now, and so it's getting a ton of attention. And so he's right in the fact that it would immediately have competition in that space for whatever that's worth to you. The problem is, and I heard Myron Metcalf bring this up this weekend, is obviously everyone doesn't feel that way for a lot of different reasons. Some people think, yes, we can use that platform. When you heard NBA coaches talk about saying it's our job when we come back to make sure we use the platform of being one of the major sports that is back to still talk about these issues. You would have access to media on an almost daily basis in a way that would allow you to reinforce that in certain instances.
Golic and Wingo, weekdays from 6 to 10 on ESPN 580 Orlando.
1 in 3 adults has prediabetes. That means it could be you, your best man, your worst man. Take the risk test at doihaveprediabetes.org to know where you stand. Brought to you by the Ad Council and its Prediabetes Awareness Partners.
Golic and Wingo.
the one thing that people have always questioned when it's come to the owner is, all right, you can say all this stuff and you can put all this money forth, and it helped, and no one's ever going to turn that down. We saw, the 49ers ownership put forth a lot of money at the beginning of all this. But at the end of the day, part of wanting to hear from these owners is, all right, well, have you heard what I have to say? Are you actually listening to the problems I'm talking about? Because that's been at the crux of all of this. We said since day one, are people listening? And it seems like on some level, some people finally are in all this. But we know, again, with all of the power that the owners had, we got a taste of that with what happened with Drew Brees, where he was finally forced to listen in a real way, which seems like for the first time in maybe far too long in that regard. And so I think ownership would fall into that category of, this money's great, but part of the reason we were looking to hear from you is because I'm sure players are trying to look up and gauge, have you actually been listening?
Golick and Wingo, weekdays from 6 to 10 on ESPN 580 Orlando. Whether it's on AM 580, FM 96.5 HD2, Alexa, or Google Home, we are everywhere you hear audio. ESPN 580 Orlando, Orlando's home for the biggest events in sports.
And now, back to Knightline, the morning after, on ESPN 580 Orlando, WDBO. Call now at 844-225-5580 or text at 21232.
All right, live back on Knightline the morning after from the 1148 studios. That's where we are. And then in the ESPN studios, Casey is in there. And then on the phone, Night Bengal. Ben Stout is here with me. We're brought to you by Chad Bar Law, raising the bar on what to expect from your personal injury attorney. Give Chad a call, 407-599-9036 for a free consultation, or visit chadbarlaw.com. Chad will take care of you no matter what your issue is. He'll at least talk to you and figure it out. Good guy there, Chad Bar. We're taking your calls, 844-225-5580 on the Dever Team line, or you can reach me, AP Knightline, on Twitter. You can also find all of the Knightline Sports Network content on nightlinesports.com. We got all kinds of stuff on there. Back talking about the COVID-19 uptick and college football. That's the biggest discussion. That's the biggest thing that I personally, and I think I can talk for the rest of us, are a little worried about at this point. So we've talked about that pretty much the entire show, and we're going to continue to talk about that. You had something that Mike Oresco, the commissioner of the AAC, which the Knights are in, obviously, said this last week or two ago.
Yeah, I think it was this past week. There was a report, and I think he had a press availability. And one of the things that was mentioned was talking about Olympic sports. So basically every sport besides football and basketball. But his quote was, "We're trying to figure out a regional way to schedule Olympic sports down the road. We've had some discussions about it, not extensive yet. It's something that's gaining traction and something we're going to investigate." So with this type of talk about Olympic sports, and this is something that I've said for a while just amongst my friends and everything, talking about this situation, this crazy time that we're in, and the effect that it's going to have on college athletics in general, in particularly college football, is that I think there is an opening for very creative solutions here to this crazy problem. And one of those that's been thrown out there multiple times is, why don't we just throw this season out the window from a tradition perspective? And what if we just played regional or statewide seasons where, for example, in the state of Florida, there's eight Division I college football teams or schools that play Division I college football, 8 teams. So what if we just said, forget the traditional scheduling, forget the, declaring a national championship or having a national championship this year. This season is out the window anyway, so let's get creative. And for UCF, for instance, let's play Florida State, Miami, Florida, USF, FIU, FAU, and all those schools where we actually do a statewide tournament. And let's declare state championships for one time. It's wild. We'll go back to somewhat normal next year, but, it would be interesting to have more regional tournaments.
All right, we have a couple callers.
Okay,
we
great.
need to get this taken care of. First of all, let's go to Allison. Allison is on the line. Allison, how are you doing? Are you there?
Hi.
That from. Oh my goodness.
So Allison is Ben's wife, and those are his kids in the background, and we're wishing him happy Father's
Hello?
Day. How cool is that, Ben?
That's really cool. Hey, sweetie. Thank you for calling in. Are you there?
Okay, well, I'm not sure, but thank you very much, Allison. That was super cool.
That was super cool.
That was
Thank
a
you.
moment that you can remember for the rest of your life.
Yeah. Thanks,
That's
babe.
awesome.
Thanks, kids. I love you.
That is absolutely awesome. All right. I got to, try. I'm getting emotional. Ben, you're not, but a little bit. You are.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you very much.
Man, that was cool. She just hung up, so that's fine. Also, we have Andrew from Oviedo. Andrew, we haven't talked to you in quite a while. I'm glad that you're back, though. Thank you very much for calling. What's on your mind? Andrew, hello.
How you guys doing?
Good. How are you? It's been a while.
Hello?
Yeah, can you hear us?
Hello?
Andrew, can you hear us?
Sounds like we're
dang
having phone problems.
Yeah. All right, go ahead and just talk about what you wanted to talk about.
I don't think you can
All
hear
right,
us.
well, that's not working, I guess. Dang it. All right. Well,
Sorry, Andrew.
Yeah, sorry, Andrew.
Thanks for calling.
We could hear you, but I guess you couldn't hear us, so that's a bummer. We haven't had a lot of phone calls recently, so maybe that was the issue with Allison as well. All right, well, it is what it is. Okay, we'll continue going back to what you were saying there, Ben. But that was cool, very cool.
I would agree. That was cool. That was cool for me.
All right. So you were saying that about the many Division I football teams in college in Florida, and we could have just kind of a tournament between them.
Yeah. And I think other states, other colleges around the country would get on board with this idea. It's just one of many that are completely outside of the box. And I guess it's understandable why, Oresco, for instance, feels so, open to easily, we could do this with Olympic sports, no big deal, because for some reason they're able to get creative with these type of solutions. But if my choice is no college football or doing some sort of season that is completely different than we've ever seen before, I'm certainly taking that second choice. And so, this is one of those ideas that's been floated out there by fans. Certainly nothing in NCAA ranks that have been talking about this. But, what if each state never had to travel on an airplane or just essentially stayed regionally and just played teams that are in their region or in their state and just declared, a champion amongst that 8-team schedule or 10-team schedule, whatever it might be. But it's certainly an interesting concept to talk about. It was where, if the choice is to not have a season or have one, I'll take that.
Well, even if we were adding FCS teams in there as well, because technically they're Division I, you could add Bethune-Cookman. So these are the teams that exist in Florida, technically in the Division I, if you include FBS and FCS. Bethune-Cookman, FIU, FAU, Gators, obviously, Florida, Florida A&M. I already mentioned the Florida Atlantic, Florida State, Miami, South Florida.
Moo.
Yeah, I don't, whatever.
We got to include them.
We can play them.
Got to get a W.
Let's just do a best of 5 or something there. I don't care. I'd love that. And then Stetson, technically, and then UCF. So that could make quite a little tournament there.
Yeah, really.
That could be fun and interesting. So, that would, make at least something. If you could do it just in state, it would alleviate travel and all that. So,
and ESPN could do regional games, and who wouldn't want to watch all of these things being settled of UCF playing UF and FSU and all that? It would be interesting.
Okay, let's take a little bit of a break, and then we'll come back, and we may have Andrew on the phone again. So we will try that again. Andrew, thank you for calling back. Just hang with us during this little break, and we'll be right back on Knightline the morning after, continuing this crazy talk of having a Florida tournament of football.
ESPN Radio.
I worked in NASCAR. It was a constant apology for the Confederate flags.
The sports news hasn't stopped.
Baseball had a golden opportunity to be the first sport back.
From Golick and Wingo in the morning.
Instead, they decided, let's bigger publicly about money, because that'll get people back to our sport.
Continuing all day.
We've been working with Disney for months to try to come up with a World Cup type tournament.
ESPN 580 and FM 96.5 HD2.
If you have a specific medical problem, you call a specialist. Broken leg? Call an orthopedist. Cataracts? Call an ophthalmologist. At Premier Men's Medical Center, our doctors specialize in ED and PE. Listen to Dr. Schwartz, a renowned expert in men's health.
I'm Dr. Schwartz. If you're experiencing ED or PE, Premier Men's Medical Center has custom blended medications to help you last longer in the bedroom, regardless of age or past medical history, with no pain or surgery. In fact, you'll see results right in the office, guaranteed, or your exam is free. Patients are now lasting 30, 60, 90 minutes or longer. And best of all, the treatments are affordable.
Men, if Viagra, Cialis, or Levitra have let you down, call Premier Men's Medical Center for a private consultation with our highly skilled physicians. Call 407-270-3940. 407-270-3940. That's 407-270-3940.
It's the summer sell-off at Greenway Dodge and Greenway Ford. 0 down or 0% financing or 0 payments till 2021 or up to 35% off. Buy now at GreenwayDodge.com and GreenwayFord.com. We'll deliver to you. Greenway, the only way. See details online.
If scuba diving is on your bucket list, now is the time to register for open water lessons with Seminole Scuba, because there's no stinking virus underwater. Seminole Scuba is being socially responsible with smaller classes and thoroughly disinfecting all the equipment. Seminole Scuba is a PADI 5-star instructor center and offers scuba lessons and the industry's top brands for those that already love the sport: Aqualung, Atomic, Sunto Dive Computers, and underwater cameras. Sign up today and dive in now. SeminoleScuba.com.
Spice up your company with homemade marketing services from Tasty Gravy Creative. Tasty Gravy serves up a menu of budget-friendly marketing, graphic design, and public relations services customized to your specific goals. Co-owned by a UCF graduate, Tasty Gravy can help refresh your brand, strengthen your online presence, or reinforce your company's message. Contact Tasty Gravy for help with your website, social media, marketing, advertising materials, and more. Visit tastygravy.com.
We are America Strong, and at Napleton Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram, we are driving America forward because reverse is not an option. Our showrooms are open, and now at Napleton, we have no payments for up to 6 months and 0% interest for up to 72 months on most models. And for the first time ever, employee pricing on Jeep Wranglers and Gladiators. So let's drive America forward. Napleton Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram. Reverse is not an option. Online at NapletonCJD.com. See NapletonCJD.com for full program details.
It's 4 a.m. and you're sucking baby snot through a tube because she's congested. If you love her that much, love her enough to make sure she's buckled in the right car seat. Find out more at nhtsa.gov/the right seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
This is ESPN 580 Orlando, broadcasting live from the Anajar and Levine studios. Anajar and Levine accident attorneys. Call 1-800-747-FREE. That's 1-800-747-3733.
And now, back to Knightline, the morning after, on ESPN 580 Orlando, WDBO. Call now at 844-225-5580 or text at 21232.
All right, back on Knightline the morning after. I'm Andrew Phegley. We are live from the 1148 studios and the ESPN 580 Orlando studios, brought to you by Chad Barr, raising the bar on what to expect from your personal injury attorney. Give Chad a call, 407-599-9036 for a free consultation, or visit chadbarlaw.com. We've been talking about the whole COVID thing and college football, and we came up with, I guess, Mike Oresco came up with a little thing. Maybe he was talking about the Olympic sports. Yeah, thank you. And we kind of applied that to maybe what it would look like in football in the state of Florida. But Andrew tried to call in just a little while ago, and he could not hear us, so he's back on the line. Let's see if Andrew can hear us this time. Andrew, can you hear us? Are you there?
Yes, hi guys, I can hear you. How you doing?
Awesome. How are you, man? Haven't talked to you in quite a while.
I know, it's been an interesting time for all of us this year. Been very busy with transitioning with pretty much the social distancing and the kids and school and the lack of sports. I've definitely been keeping busy, but luckily I've still been listening, still been trying to keep engaged. Just been more on the sidelines these past couple weeks, months.
Yeah,
but I wanted to call in. Number one, wish happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there, and
Same to you,
transition to sports. I know this was brought up a while ago with the scholarship players. One thing I was kind of curious of, if for some reason the season just doesn't happen, what happens to those scholarship players that say that are junior seniors that are about to graduate? Do they get an extra year of eligibility, but they have to still participate in schooling? How exactly does that work for those players and maybe at the end of their scholarship versus people just coming in?
Yeah, well, this is exactly what I was talking about, where the NCAA needs to step up and give some kind of guidance, because you saw this happen earlier in the year in baseball, really, in the spring sports, I guess you would say. This is a big deal. This, there's all kinds of things that get involved. Players going to the NFL when they're seniors or after or even juniors or whatever. I mean, there's all kinds of things that get involved with that. And this is where I think the NCAA needs to come and say something. Yeah. At least I'm sure that they have a plan, but why not tell everybody about the plan and see, especially now. I mean, if I was them, I would have something to say about this on Monday, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So, Andrew, you're absolutely right, and that's a huge, huge thing.
Yeah, and we've talked about budget concerns, right? So if all of a sudden that happens for seniors that, they receive an extra year of eligibility, that puts the onus on the schools once again. We talked about this with the baseball season. That puts the onus on the schools once again that we're going to have a class of incoming freshmen and we're going to have a class of seniors who did not leave. And so that's extra scholarships that either create extra scholarships if you have the money for it, or you don't have the money for it, and all of a sudden everything gets chaotic as far as how you could help them with their schooling.
Well, and what does it do to recruiting? What does it do? I've said this about the baseball and the spring sport thing the entire time. What does that do to recruiting? Because you're going to have these 5 extra players or whatever. We have a lot of seniors on the football team.
Yeah.
So say if you were going to have those guys have an extra year of eligibility, what does that say to the incoming freshmen?
Right.
I mean, are they going to have a spot? Are they going to have any chance of getting on the team? Some of them come early just to try to get, on the team and be a starter or whatever. Andrew, thank you very much for your call. It was great to talk to you. Happy Father's Day as well. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely, guys. I'll see you in the future.
All right, man. Take it easy. All right, that was cool. We haven't heard from Andrew in a long time. He's one of our best callers, and pretty much has always called. So it has been weird. This whole thing has been weird. I'm ready to have some kind of normalcy. I don't like the term new normal. I've never liked it, but I'm starting to think maybe we're going to have to deal with that. Roger, are you still there? Can you talk?
I can hear you now. Unfortunately, I missed Andrew's commentary. However, I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, well, he was asking the question basically, if football gets pushed back or canceled for the year or whatever, what do we do about all those players that missed their senior season? Do we have some of those players come back? Do we have all of them come back? And I said that the NCAA needs to have something about this immediately, just like they did with the spring sports, basically.
Yeah, I in my personal opinion, I mean, obviously all of the ADs are going to push for that. But again, that goes back to what we were talking about before with scholarship costs, right? The NCAA, in my opinion, would come back out and say, hey, you've got another season of eligibility. The question is, do they make modifications like they did with baseball to allow, no limits on scholarships for a period of time? What does that do with transfers if that happens? So there's a lot of open questions there, but I definitely think they would figure out a way to allow those seniors to have those games for those seniors that are already high level folks that are going to be draft picks. They'll probably just opt out and go straight to the NFL. I mean, if you think about Clemson's quarterback, he was already talking about skipping out on his senior year. So even if we push it back, I think players like that will go and those won't be an issue. But I do think the NCAA and I think the administrators will want those folks to be able to come back for a senior year.
Yeah, well, I wonder there may be some issues with that as well. If the season didn't happen, then they didn't have the number of years that they needed to actually be playing to go to the NFL. I wonder how that works. So, yeah, all kinds of stuff going on there as well.
Well, we immediately go to those players, right? The Trevor Lawrences of the world, the guys that are trying to go to the NFL earlier, right? Because they're so good. But really, the one that's forgotten in that situation is that senior who is going into a senior year and he's committed 4 or 5 years to the team already and wants to enjoy and have his senior year, and that's cut out. He may not be a starter or whatever, and then all of a sudden he's able to come back. But who knows if the team or the administration is actually going to allow them back because of the scholarship cost, and we've already lost a season in that scenario. You already lost out on that money. So it's an interesting and it's kind of not a great scenario.
All right. Well, we are coming to the end of our show for today. I think it's been a good show. This has been a good conversation. We've talked about the entire show, which we never really do. We always have something else to talk about. This is a big deal, folks. It's basically going to make or break the college football season, and who knows what it's going to do to basketball later on and everything else. College sports for this year, at least, are not anything that we've ever known before. It's going to be something completely different, I guess, with every other sport as well. So we'll have to get used to that. Again, happy Father's Day to everybody out there. Go enjoy the day. Thank you for listening to us and taking a little bit of time out of your day. Allison, that was super, super cool that you and the kids there for calling Ben. We appreciate that. Roger, thank you. Casey, thank you back in the studio. And we'll see you next week. We'll probably be talking about a lot of the same. Hopefully there will be some new information. Hopefully the NCAA comes out with something.